lawyer can be a daunting task, and selecting the right lawyer for you is an important decision. It really helps to understand how that attorney gets compensated for their work. Grand Rapids personal injury attorney Tom Sinas of the Sinas Law Firm, our sponsor, has advocated for those injured in West Michigan for more than 10 years. And Tom joins us today. And so I'm so glad you're here, because I think when people hear personal injury, that can encompass different things.
Yes.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, it can, because it is a very sort of undefined term, the idea that someone is injured. Generally, personal injury law, as that phrase is used, means the representation of people who have been harmed by someone else's, as the law calls, negligence, or it's better to call it carelessness. So you can imagine, you know, a lot of the work we do, we represent people who have been in car crashes caused by a distracted driver, for example. But that phrase, personal injury law, means that the lawyer is representing the victim of someone else's carelessness, and the goal, of course, is to make sure that the victim is made whole or receives some form of just compensation for what has happened to them. And that's the general term that people use when they mean personal injury law.
Yeah, so I bet you do get a lot of calls about people saying, I think I may have a case here, I may have a claim here. So when people call to talk to you and when they eventually decide to hire an attorney, of course, compensation is often one of the very big questions that are discussed in there. And so what do we need to know about how an attorney gets compensated, Tom?
It's such a great question, because most people think lawyers are paid the way most lawyers are paid, and that is by the hour. You know, if you had a family law lawyer or a criminal defense lawyer or a probate, an estates lawyer, those are all lawyers who work commonly under the traditional model of what we'll call fee for service. They work an hour, you get a bill for the time that's worked. That doesn't work for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have cash set aside to pay a lawyer by the hour, particularly after they've been hurt. These are people who are often at their most vulnerable. Sometimes they're not working, they've lost income. So this is not a good situation for people to be able to say, well, I'll pay you by the hour. Thankfully, our legal system here and throughout the United States recognizes that and says that in certain areas of law, people can hire a lawyer under what's called a contingency fee. And that is the idea that the lawyer is not paid anything for their time unless there's a successful recovery. So if for some reason there's not a successful recovery, the client doesn't owe the lawyer anything. If there is a successful recovery, then the lawyer is paid a percentage of that recovery. And that, of course, is negotiated between the client and the lawyer. But most commonly in our state, because it's approved by our court rules and rules of ethics, is that a lawyer on a personal injury case can work on a 1/3 contingency fee, meaning the lawyer is paid 1/3 of the recovery if there is a recovery. Now, contingency fee models are not permitted in certain areas of law, but in personal injury law, it is the most common way that lawyers in our state and around the country work, for the very reason that I just said.
Yeah, well, it actually sounds like a good deal, that you don't have to put that money forward, and you get paid by a successful outcome.
That's right.
Is, of course, what everybody wants. Are there other things that people should know about contingency fees?
Yes, to your point, it is a really good dynamic, I think, because the client and the lawyer have the same interest. In a general sense, right? Obviously, the lawyer's interest is to protect the client, but here, they both are not compensated, neither is compensated until there's an outcome, a successful outcome. Special rules, there are special rules. In Michigan, a contingency fee cannot exceed that 1/3 number that I told you was authorized by our court rules and rules of ethics. That's very important, because in other states, lawyers can charge a higher percentage. So a Michigander, though, should never pay more than that. Number two, the agreement, the contingency fee agreement between the client and the lawyer has to be in writing. The law requires that. So if you hire a personal injury lawyer like me, you'll enter into an agreement with the lawyer that summarizes this. Number three, there's this thing called costs. And costs are not the lawyer's time. Costs are things that the client and the lawyer have to spend money on to move the case along. So most common example, if you file a lawsuit, you have to pay a filing fee. Or if you take a deposition, you have to pay a court reporter. Those are costs. And in Michigan, when there's a successful recovery, the costs are paid first before the attorney fee is paid. Other states is different. Sometimes the attorney is paid first. In Michigan, costs are paid first, and that's good because it protects the client and the lawyer share in the costs. So anyone considering hiring a lawyer in Michigan should be mindful of those rules because they apply across the board.
Yeah, all of that very good information. Tom, can you tell us a little bit about your firm? And you are located in Grand Rapids. You have been practicing for many years, and you have a large team of attorneys that are part of Sinas.
Yes, and you know, the great thing about our law firm is it's been around for over 72 years. When my grandfather and his best friend, Lee Dramus, started the law firm. Our original office was in Lansing. We still have a number of attorneys, obviously, in our Lansing office. We've been here in West Michigan. I've been here for 10 years. We also have offices in Kalamazoo and Ann Arbor and Metro Detroit. And the great thing I think about our law firm is that all of us share the same values. All we do as a law firm is represent people who have been hurt. We don't represent insurance companies or large corporations. We represent individual people and their family. We all share that same ethic. And because the firm has been a small business that's been around for a long time, I'd like to think that we have a very family-oriented atmosphere in the firm, not only between each other, but also how we think of our clients. You know, we often say in our office that our clients' cases are personal to us because we work on a limited number of cases at a time so that we can do what we think is right by giving everyone that individual attention.
Yeah, well, we showed your site. We'll put it online, as well as your phone number, so people, if they have questions about the things that we talked about, they can get in touch with you. So Tom, thank you for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And this segment is sponsored by Sinas Law Firm. We'll be right back with more eightWest.